Ah, yeah. Hey, Amaru. Only if you're ready. Let's go. I'm only looking for loyalty. All I need from you. I'm thinking you be the one for me. I can see it on you. Your love that do me every time. With you by my side, we gon' shine. Baby girl, you know you royalty. I've been waiting for you. Me no care about all the noise, but I'm digging your station. See how you got my head spinning with a body rotation. Couple days went by, now I'm losing my patience. Go ahead, drop a pin, girl, wanna know your location. What's your location? Had to pull a plug on your ex, now you coming my way out. I can switch it up for you, girl, I'm no longer a player. See that pretty face on my screen, that'll make my day out. I'm only looking for loyalty. All I need from you. I'm thinking you be the one for me. I can see it on you. Your love that do me every time. With you by my side, we gon' shine. Baby girl, you know you royalty. I've been waiting for you. Yeah. Do you know she royalty? Do you know she royalty? I be that one that I get heart racing. I did feel like with her we can take over nations, yeah. We can take a trip whenever, girl, you need a vacation. Number one bad girl, killing everything like on a mission. Girl on a mission. Had to pull a plug on your ex, now you coming my way out. I can switch it up for you, girl, I'm no longer a player. See that pretty face on my screen, that'll make my day out. I'm only looking for loyalty. All I need from you. I'm thinking you be the one for me. I can see it on you. Your love that do me every time. With you by my side, we gon' shine. Baby girl, you know you royalty. I've been waiting for you. Yeah.
Hello everyone, welcome to the Tuesday chat. Lovely to have you here. Hit that thumbs up button and the subscribe button, please. And great to have you all here. So we're going to have a slightly different podcast today. In the lead up to the court case in May with Harry and several other celebrities that involve several UK tabloid newspapers, I've decided that on the slower news days, like today, there wasn't really anything going on in Royal Land, or nothing too much of interest to us. I decided that on these days, I'm going to start doing podcasts that look a little bit more into the British press and their less than their horrible practices, basically. One of the things that I've realized is that a lot of people actually don't realize what happened during the phone hacking scandal, or they're forgotten about the depth of it, just how far these newspapers went. And obviously, even though with the phone hacking scandal, it was mostly centered around the news of the world, other papers were involved as well, but because it was basically the tabloids doing the dirty crimes, there were no real credible there weren't many real credible outlets to report on what the press was doing, because why would the press report on the press's shady dealings? And this is a problem that we have here in the UK, is that because the tabloid press is the press, there really isn't anyone to hold them accountable. So, whereas in the US, you've got the TMZs, the Peoples, and then you've got the Fox Newses, the CNNs, the quote unquote more credible news outlets. So they, when one is misbehaving, the other one can call them out. Whereas here, we don't really have that. So we're going to take a stroll down memory lane and look at some of the other things that were going on at the time and things that have transpired since then. Because there are many things that even I didn't know about. And we're going to get into that in this podcast today. And like I always say, it's not just to do with the royals, this whole issue. Obviously, Harry is the most, one of the most prominent figures involved, and that he is a royal, I guess, adds to the interest. But it's the everyday person that can get swept into the media circus because the tabloid press are just so thirsty. Yes, Ladybird, this exactly. The scandal was contained in order to protect the media. And most of the people who were involved just got away with a slap on the wrist. But hopefully, this time round, we will see some kind of justice. If not at least just for Harry, but I believe that we can find justice for the British people and what the tabloids have done. So, hello, everyone, and let's get into it. So, I'm going to actually read some interesting articles that were on Byline Investigates. And the first is to do with um, a woman who was caught up in the 7/7 bombings and became the target of press harassment. So, like I said, it's not just celebrities, it can be anyone, including victims of terrorism. The tabloid press are ruthless. If there's a story there and they can make money, that's all they care about. They don't care about the well being of the British people. The 7/7 bombings was one of the most um one of the most emotional, one of the most scary days I think of our lives in the UK. Definitely in in modern history, especially if you were living in London. It was terrifying. I remember that day like it was yesterday. We were at school, they pretty much stopped all the lessons. There were many of us crying, upset. Those whose parents, take the train regularly, they actually stopped lessons and they allowed anyone who thought that their parents may have taken the train that morning to try and call their parents. And while everybody was trying to comfort each other after this terrible incident, what were the tabloid press doing? They were trying to get a story. So this is the story of the woman in the mask who became the target of press harassment from The Sun. So London bombing survivor Davina Douglas is suing Rupert Murdoch's The Sun over alleged unlawful news gathering. She and other victims of the 7/7 atrocities were targeted by illegal private investigators, the courts here. So these are people who were literally caught up in the middle of the terror attack. Can you imagine? I mean, who can imagine the trauma, even for those of us who have never been directly, involved in a terror incident? I can tell you that for some years after 7/7 happened, if I was on the underground or if I was on public transport and I heard a loud bang or a scream, it would trigger me. And these were people who were there when it happened, trying to just get themselves back to some sense of normality, trying to recover, trying to, put one foot in front of the other and deal with life, and they're being targeted by the press. Um, there was also a gentleman named Nick Parker who allegedly had her medical records obtained by deception, and her church blagged for her address. Family members, including Mrs. Douglas' elderly grandmother, were also targeted. So they also targeted their families, and Murdoch lawyers try and fail to gag byline investigators who have really been doing a good job of covering this. So they tried to gag byline investigators and pretty much anyone who tries to criticize them for what they did. So the London bombing survivor, whose field dress face became the defining image of the 7/7 terror attacks, has condemned the Sun over allegations it was illegally spying on her as she lay stricken in hospital after the atrocities that killed 56 people in 2005. Davina Douglas, who is suing News Corp for allegedly obtaining her private information by deception and voicemail hacking, said she even needed police guards to stop intrusions by journalists as she was being treated for serious facial burns. So this woman was blasted all over the TV, and you would think that actually, if anybody was targeting her, it would maybe be the terrorists. But no, it was the press. She had to have guards by her bedside, not to protect her from the danger of terrorists who were causing the attacks, but from the press who were hounding her. Please, somebody make this make sense. So it goes on to say, Mrs. Douglas said, "I remember feeling trapped, targeted, and overwhelmed. I cannot describe how frightening it was." And she added, a couple of days later, maybe around the 9th or 10th of July, I learned the police were actually protecting me from the media. The claims sworn in a High Court witness statement in which Mr. Douglas also alleges other 7/7 victims were targeted by the Sun can only now be revealed because this website, Byline, challenged a bid by NGN to gag us from reporting details on her case. The Murdoch Media Company eventually dropped a formal application for reporting restrictions, which would have seen journalists face jail for repeating the allegations after a tense March 24th hearing at the High Court in London. So they tried to actually keep this under wraps. They didn't want anyone reporting on what they were doing. It goes on to say, however, we can tell how Douglas, previously known as Davina Terrell, allegedly became a target of an unlawful news gathering habitually used by the Sun after being caught by chance in the plot to wreak havoc on London on July 7th of 2005. She was on her way to work as a trainee barrister in Paddington when fellow passenger Mohammed Khan blew himself up as her train pulled out of Edgware Road, killing 6 people, including himself. A photograph of Douglas in a surgical mask, dressing, being assisted by another member of the public, led the Sun to hail him a hero and dub her the woman in the mask, all while it was allegedly investigating her medical records and home and family life. They saw a woman get caught up in a terrorist attack, and they went after her medical records and her family life. Douglas told the court through her barrister that journalists hounded her at the burns unit at Chelsea and Westminster Hospital. This woman is literally laying up there with a burnt face, probably got PTSD, and there's journalists trying to get in. I was told by my partner, Eric, that people were calling up the nurses' station. So not only are they trying to go after her, they're also disrupting services, saying that they are a cousin or pretending to be hospital staff. It seemed to me that the media were trying everything they could to get in contact with me while she was laying up there with a burnt face. Even one journalist pretended to be a florist and turned up. Y'all. As part of the discovery process in her case, Douglas says she has seen 10 invoices from private investigators allegedly used to unlawfully target her by the Sun and its former stablemate, the News of the World. The sister paper closed in 2011 for phone hacking. and that includes the hacking of the phone of the schoolgirl Millie Dowler. Also, don't forget, guys and dolls, just after the Queen died, Charles had a meeting, and there's pictures. I think I've shown them on the podcast before of Charles with the now lead editor of The Sun, the same Sun that was chasing around terror victims. She went on, my solicitors carried out a search of the names that feature in the invoices. A number of articles and reports have been shown to me, which I exhibit to the statement. It is clear from these articles and search results that news group was targeting other victims of the bombing also. Douglas, whose mother had died of cancer just a month before the attacks, signed out one still-serving Sun journalist, chief foreign correspondent Nick Parker, as a key to the paper's allegedly illegal intrusions into her medical information and the private lives of her family. She said, I remember the Sun being particularly awful. There was one man who called Eric, our ex-directory landline number at the time, something they couldn't have obtained lawfully. Eric told me that the man was aggressive and kept saying he knew I was there. I believe it was Nick Parker, as I recall him trying to contact me on a number of occasions. Among the family members targeted was Douglas's mother. Oh, sorry, Douglas's grandmother, who was in her 80s at the time. They were trying to target an 80-year-old woman. Reflecting on the impact, Douglas said, she was an old lady who had just lost my mum, and then all this happened, and there was no way I could protect her. Douglas and the Sun tried to win her over with gifts of flowers and offer substantial cash payments in return for her story, as she underwent multiple operations to restore skin burnt from the left side of her face. She said, I hated the attention. The flowers were nice, but it didn't feel right. It was like they were trying to soften me up so I could speak to them. Right, so it goes on a little bit. All right, so it's quite a long article. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but I'll post the link so you can read a little bit more into that, because it's quite an interesting story. Mind you, the legal costs for all the phone hacking, the payouts, I think it's coming close to almost like $1 billion or something for the Sun. There is no way that they get to the other side of this without going completely and utterly bankrupt. No way. So you can expect to see the Sun newspaper just kaput by the time this is all finished. I'm just scrolling to the end of this article, and it's saying that the total damages for these 7/7 victims is in the excess of 41 million so far. So, yeah, the Sun is in a hell of a lot of trouble. And also, it's not just terror victims they go after. It's also people in the public eye who are going through mental health issues. So here's one example of when they went after footballer Ashley Cole. They also went after his then wife Cheryl Cole. We'll get into Cheryl's story in a minute. But the Sun targeted him while he was having a mental breakdown inside of a clinic. And then we wonder why people commit suicide. Right, I'm going to go to your comments before I get on to the next story. Verdi, you said, all of the ones that showed up pretending to be somebody who they were not need to be locked up in jail for several years. I agree. The desperation and inhumanity of these people. Marina, so her burnt face was a money shot. That's disgusting behavior. Why the public don't call this out is just messed up. Yeah. But the thing is, a lot of these stories just, got carried away by the wind because the same newspapers are the ones who are gonna, they're gonna cover their backs. The Sun newspaper isn't gonna report that they were trying to get to a woman's bedside while she was laying in a hospital bed with a burnt face. They're not gonna report that. It's up to news outlets like Byline. Occasionally, The Guardian will do something decent, but they're kind of moving towards, the establishment anyway. So there's not really that many independent voices that can call this out. Yeah, but all I can say is that hell is waiting. Yes, Janine, complete barbarians. It's like, how low can you go? Okay, let's get on to. Oh, okay. Cynthia, you said it appears the British media would target even the dead if money could be made. Yeah, probably. I'm sure if I looked, I could probably find something on Google search. Yes, Hidley, I heard about this. Yeah, Rupert Murdoch is now engaged. I think this is his 5th marriage. I mean, how old is this guy? I don't know who the woman is, but you know what? He hasn't got long to go. So she probably has to wait all but 6 months, and then she'll get the a little bit of the payout money from the will. Good for her. Linda Lala, you said a lot of us saw the hell these animals put Diana through for years, and where that all ended up. Yes, justice can't come soon enough. But it can only come if the British public want the change and they recognize that this is about more than just celebrities. YM, you said Murdoch will go down in history as one of the most destructive forces to the decency in the UK, US, and Australia. Indeed. But unfortunately, the stories and the vitriol that the Murdoch media puts out is only given its power by the people that read it. So the people that read it, the people that buy into what is said, they are also part of the problem. Because I just think that the very least you can do as a citizen, right? When you're reading a piece of information or when you're listening to a piece of information, would you not stop and go, okay, who is giving me this information? Why? What is their angle? What are their affiliations? What do they gain if I buy into these stories? It's just things like that. I don't know if it's just because we don't teach critical thinking or what, but you would think that people would ask those questions, and a lot of people don't. I think if you ask most people who owns the newspaper that you read, who owns the media, maybe out of 10 people, 2 or 3 could tell you Rupert Murdoch. They probably wouldn't know many of the other names in media. Margaret, you said the UK should have an independent governing establishment that is not part of the police or government and royalty. They should, but I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening anytime soon. They're just so connected to each other. What you're asking for, Margaret, is a revolution. That's the only way I feel that we get that. And revolutions come with a lot. Revolutions don't come peacefully. And I don't know if the UK is ready for that, because it also takes collective action. Oh, Murdoch is 95, 92? Okay, well then she only has to wait a year, and then she'll get her payout money. Yeah, he's looking for a babysitter. Oh, there's actually a term for this now. Oh, what do they call it? A care home wife? Yes, he's looking for a care home wife. Right, let's get on to Ashley Cole's story. So, Ashley Cole, a famous footballer, was married to then Cheryl Cole. I think she's changed her name back to Cheryl Tweedy. But he went through some things. ended up in a care facility, and the son unlawfully spied on him while he was receiving medical treatment. So we're going after people when they're in hospital with third-degree burns and when they're having a breakdown in rehab. So reports obtained a covert recording of the footballer when he was in a highly vulnerable state. Cole, who was the defender for Chelsea Football Club, was reportedly suffering from depression following a string of problems in his personal and professional life. His marriage to the pop singer Cheryl Tweedy had collapsed, and a broken ankle meant he was out of the Premiership squad. Cole's turmoil was further aggravated by the Sun's repeated intrusions into his private life. However, the violations continued when tabloid reporters unlawfully targeted him in a sophisticated surveillance operation. Private investigators were allegedly tasked to find out who he was calling, a High Court document revealed. Some reporters were particularly interested in text and phone calls to his wife and mum because he was confiding in them whilst undergoing therapy. Then a tape recording was made of Cole's private conversations at a French clinic. So he was in France when this was going on. He wasn't even in the UK. They were literally willing to spy on people while they were in other countries. In legal documents, the Sun's parent company, News Group Newspapers, aka NGN, have repeatedly not admitted or have denied that the Sun was responsible for unlawful information gathering. However, journalists from the Sun's notorious news departments have been accused of secretly obtaining the tape. And significantly, they also roped in Sunsport to identify Cole's voice on the tape. Mike Dunn, the Sun sports editor at the time, had been named in connection with the allegations. According to sources, one of the sports reporters in Dunn's department was asked to verify that it was definitely Cole talking on the recording. Chelsea teammate Michael Essien, who was also undergoing treatment, could be heard speaking too. However, the sports reporter was hesitant about engaging in unethical practices and claimed that this incurred the wrath of bosses at the Sun. Eventually, under pressure, according to sources, he verified the voices of two players. He became increasingly concerned that a line had been crossed. Oh, no-ish, Sherlock. To the extent that felt the need to warn the parties involved. He secretly tipped off people close to Cole about the incident. The drama only came to light much later when the reporter was made redundant. He alleged that he had been unfairly treated and threatened to expose the Sun. Mike Dunn was furious that the reporter had leaked sensitive information to Cole's people. Okay, so it goes on a little bit. The scandal is the latest example of corruption of sports desks revealed by Byline Investigates. And also, for those of you who don't, live in the UK, footballers, they're huge stars here. The same way as the footballers are in the NFL. So a lot of public interest, especially when they're dating a very well-known celebrity. And Cheryl was part of Girls Aloud, who was one of the biggest girl bands in the UK at the time. Okay, so it goes on to say, at the time, the Sun was heavily covering Cole's personal relationship with his then wife Tweedy, who was in the pop group Girls Aloud. Oh, by the way, one of the reporters who was very critical of Cheryl at the time and wrote a lot about her was, guess who? Dan Whatnot. Yes, Dan Wooten. Prior to the publication of a story in The Sun, Cole completely broke down on a balcony at the clinic and launched a foul-mouthed rant at stunned fans outside. Moments after being spotted laughing and joking with fellow patients, he exploded with rage, yelling, "Effing hell, my life is ruined. Why don't you just F off, just leave me alone." But midway through his stay, The Sun ran a series of stories which referenced his mental health problems and became increasingly intrusive. The first was headlined, "Ashley, my life is ruined." So they are trying to hack into this guy's voicemails trying to get as much information about his private life as possible when he's in the most vulnerable state. I mean, he took the decision to check himself in to get help. And they run a headline, Ashley, my life is ruined. So just adding to the fact that he's already in a vulnerable situation. And with Cheryl, now I didn't know this actually until recently. Cheryl is now also suing the Sun over hacking. And get this, they hacked her while she was recovering from malaria. It's like if there is someone sick and dying in a hospital bed, there's the Sun newspaper trying to get a story. So we're going to read into this as well. Just give me one sec because, okay, there's an actual screenshot of Dan Wooten's story. I just forgot to upload it. Give me a sec. Thank you all of you for joining me today. Slightly different podcast, but I think these are some interesting things to touch upon because I think some people would assume that the tabloids were only doing this when Meghan came along. I mean, it definitely got worse, and we know the very specific reasons, why Meghan was targeted the way she was. But this is a trend. Yeah, so this is actually a story by Dan Wooten, who also went after Cheryl Cole. Well, she was Cheryl Cole at the time. I think the first line actually says, sitting alone in a large booth looking deeply miserable. Yeah, because, they love the misery. They love to see you miserable. Cheryl Tweedy plays with her phone at the Brit Awards. Oh, that's Dan Wooten for you. Okay, I'm going to go to your comments before I actually get into the what they did to Cheryl. Esther, she said, completely agree. I believe most tabloid readers lack critical thinking. Indeed. Charlie CC, you said, wow, Grandpa had more gravitas. He celebrated and supported, whereas they hold women in higher standard, then name calling them as gold digger. Yeah. I mean, he just wants a carer. Let's be honest. I don't know who this woman is. He definitely knows how to pick him, Rupert Murdoch. I mean, Wendy Deng. Didn't she have an affair with Tony Blair? And then Jerry Hall. He knows how to pick him. What the hell? Why Android? Looking at Murdoch's face, it made me feel like I know what his testicles look like with his glasses. I'm so sorry that you have that image in your mind. Cookies and cream. Yes, unfortunately, there's no more integrity in journalism. Well, I think there is. I just think that the journalists who want to actually be informative have been pushed to the back of the office. And I do think that us, the public, are partly to blame for this. Because now a lot of, especially online media, they're more interested in writing stories that trigger people than inform people. I think if we all just boycotted a lot of these stories and actually started to recognize when certain stories are just written to trigger people and just focus on, just things that I wouldn't say shouldn't focus on, but when there's more important things, we should be focusing on those things. If we started to just ignore this grifting mainstream media that just plays to our emotions and stuck to real informative stories, then they would have to start being more informative again and more truthful again. Yeah, I mean, a hot mess. Absolute stalkers. Literally. Are you suffering? Are you in a hospital bed? Yeah, here comes the sun. Okay, just trying to get through your comments before we go into the last story. Why Android This all just goes to support everything Harry has been saying. I hope they start reporting from the unemployment line. Yes, all of this 100% backs up not just what Harry is saying, but everybody who's involved in these court cases. And it's just been adding up for decades. Verda, that woman just offered his money because there ain't nothing he can do with her. She would give him a heart attack in a heartbeat. Indeed. Okay, on to the last story. So this is what they did to Miss Cheryl. So right, so singer Cheryl Tweedy has joined the latest wave of people to sue Rupert Murdoch's UK tabloids for phone hacking. So she launched this case in 2019. The 36-year-old former member of Girls Aloud filed her action last month at the High Court in London, just like Prince Harry, as reported here exclusively 2 weeks ago. The legal move comes 8 years after it was alleged journalists from newspapers hacked Miss Tweedy's phone as she lay ill in hospital with malaria. These people. We put specific questions relating to that report incident to NGN, but we have yet to receive a response as the story was published. Ms. Tweedy is among a queue of new claimants to go after the Sun and now defunct News of the World through the courts. Latest chapter in the saga that is anticipated could cost NGN some 1 billion in legal bills and damages. 1 billion in legal bills and damages. Yeah, they're done. Not just the Sun, probably any other outlets connected to NGN as well. They include the estate of former England footballer Sir Bobby Robson, reality stars Imogen Thomas, Rebecca Lewis, actors Julia Swala, Michelle Collins, Gary Lucy, and Richard Fleshman. So several other celebrities as well. In addition to their own specific claims of being targeted with illegal phone hacking and blagging for stories, each is also alleging NGN engaged in an orchestrated cover-up of its alleged newsroom wrongdoing, in which some y'all, are you ready for this? Let me just start this paragraph again. In addition to their own specific claims of being targeted with illegal hacking and blagging for stories, each is also alleging NGN engaged in an orchestrated cover-up of its alleged newsroom wrongdoing, in which some 30 million emails along with computer hard drives were destroyed. 30 million emails. What were they hiding and why? And why hasn't there been a deeper investigation into what they destroyed and why they destroyed it? How are you going to just destroy 30 million emails and no one going to say nothing about it? Like this takes the whole Hillary Clinton, but her emails to a whole new level. Byline Investigates understands that Murdoch's top executive team in New York is growing wary of the toll the hacking scandal has taken on the UK newspaper business. The loss-making brands run by controversial chief executive Rebecca Brooks herself, cleared on phone hacking charges at the Old Bailey, are increasingly considered irredeemably tainted. Oh, Rebecca Brooks, she's going to meet her maker as well. We haven't heard the last of her. She got away with it the first time with a slap on the wrist. But I don't think we've seen the last of her. Karma is still yet to get her, and I think it will. Because she was heavily involved in this hacking stuff. I don't know how she got away with it other than her high connections. And actually, I think tomorrow we're going to look into Rebecca Brooks. I'm going to do a podcast about Rebecca Brooks. Rebecca Brooks, Harry doesn't name her in Spare, but he talks about her. I think he uses like he rearranged the letters of her name and he talks about her in that way. But Rebecca Brooks was obsessed with Harry. And actually today, when I was doing some reading into Rebecca Brooks, guess who Rebecca Brooks is friends with? Guess who this woman who was obsessed with Harry during the phone hacking days is friends with? None other than Jeremy Clarkson. There are pictures of Rebecca Brooks with Jeremy Clarkson. What a tangled web we weave, but I will get into that tomorrow. So back to Cheryl. One NGN source said some journalists considered the industry elite in the 1990s and 2000s because of their ability to find tabloid scoops, are now seen through the prism of the criminality alleged behind so many of their stories. Everyone knows where they got their stories from, said the source. That was the problem with The Sun and the News of the World. Nearly all of their stories was a result of either hacking, private investigators, or checkbook journalism. In the case of Miss Tweedy, it is believed her lawyers will examine the entire period of her public life for evidence of hacking and wrongdoing, extending back to her first appearances on ITV talent show Pop Stars The Rivals in 2020. So they were likely targeting Cheryl from the very beginning of her public life. Pop Stars The Rivals was how Cheryl got her big break. That was like one of the early talent TV shows, and that was where Girls Aloud were formed. So they were pretty much targeting her from the very beginning. The performer has, ever since then, been a staple of the tabloid front pages with a particular focus on her private life, alongside a high profile conviction for assault she received in 2003. In addition, a deepening rift between Miss Tweedy and The Sun's executive editor, Dan Wooten, has placed the singer and the paper at odds in recent years, with Wooten sniping from his column in the paper. Here you go. Because we know that's what he likes to do. Bully women in the media. Did it to Cheryl, did it to Meghan, did it to Alexandra Burke, did it to Caroline Flack, and we all know how that ended. Another insider said, there is tension between Cheryl and The Sun. Once upon a time, they had a decent relationship, but that's long in the past. In 2011, it was reported that Miss Tweedy's representative were preserving tweets posted by someone claiming to be a former News of the World journalist that alleged the paper hacked the star's phone while she was in hospital recovering from malaria in 2010. Right. Okay. So it goes on to say, neither Miss Tweedy's representative nor NGN reportedly commented on the claim when asked at the time, and it's not known whether it will form any part of her lawsuit. However, the News of the World sister paper, The Sun, wrote extensively about Miss Tweedy's medical status, citing unnamed sources under the byline of former showbiz editor Gordon Smart. So who are these unnamed sources? They had got to have been hacking her phone. As part of her action, Miss Tweedy will, along with the claimants, be making specific allegations about Mr. Smart's evidence to the Leveson inquiry. In the legal action to date, News UK denies or does not admit any wrongdoing on behalf of The Sun. So there you go. 3 examples of when The Sun newspaper specifically, but this is just what the tabloids do, going after people in their most vulnerable state. A terror victim laying in the hospital bed with a burnt face. An individual, because it doesn't matter whether or not he's a celebrity, an individual, a human, who was in rehab trying to get help for the mental health issues, and a woman who was laying up in bed sick with malaria. This is who the British tabloids are. And I hope these things can be considered in the upcoming court case. This is a pattern of behavior. Do you know what? Either way, regardless of whether any of these celebrities win their case or lose or settle or whatever, the Sun newspaper is going down, and NGN and Murdoch's company, they're going down, because ain't no way unless they're getting other money through the back door that they can survive. The number of claimants and money that they're going to have to pay out. Maybe that's why Murdoch and Elon were getting all buddy at the Super Bowl. Because Murdoch knows he's in trouble. And with that, that is all for today's podcast. Thank you everyone for listening. I will go through your comments now. And while I'm going through your comments, I was bored today, so I did this. You can name the crimes. Name the crimes on the scene. Only squaddies will get it. Thank you as always, everyone. Appreciate you all so much. And yes, I will be doing more of these podcasts and looking more into UK tabloid press, trash journalism, and the individual faces and names. Because I think we need to start putting faces and names together. You know, people like Dan Wooten, he didn't just pop up yesterday. He's been at this game for a while. It's a pattern of behavior with the tabloid rats and their bosses that goes back decades. And it's criminal. And it needs to be called out. Jandy, you said, I made a choice to never read the Daily Felt almost 7 years ago. I've never read The Sun and I rarely read The Mirror. My time is both worth their work. Yeah. Really, there's nothing in these tabloid newspapers that is beneficial to anyone. Marina, I wish Carolyn Flack's family would sue Dan Wooten and The Sun for her death. They caused it and can't use allegedly on this. Well, I think that her boyfriend actually tried to sue. And then her boyfriend actually got charged with harassing Dan Wooten. I think I covered this back when it happened, which is just insane to me. So I think there's a reason why her family didn't sue, because it would, you know, they'd be going up against The Sun. It's going to cost a lot of money. And, you know, a court case like that, you're basically trying to do something that I don't think anyone has ever done before. You're basically trying to prove that it was them that led to her suicide, and in the eyes of the law and in the court, how do you prove that? Because us as, you know, humans with emotional intelligence, we know what led to her death, but what we feel and what the court says and what the law says are two different things. So I think that before we ever get to that point where you can actually sue the press for something like that, I think there needs to be a lot of campaigning done, and there needs to be laws changed. And hopefully with these upcoming court cases, maybe that can be the beginning of the change. Yes, Maureen, Murdoch is getting hit on both shores, and I love it for him. The comments about Prince Edward, yes, I've seen the pictures, and all I can say is I hope he's okay, because we know that family really doesn't care about anyone. So yeah, I hope Edward's okay. Veda, they may have destroyed the emails in the hard drive, but that information is still out there somewhere in the clouds. They need someone who can specialize in it to bring all of that information back up. Yeah. Light side. Oh, is Brooks the one who was obsessed with Piers Morgan? Yes. They allegedly, for the lawyers listening, had a thing. And she did work under him and he promoted her. Why am Troy? Becky with the good hacking devices. Yeah. That's Rebecca Brooks. Boney, I think only one person went to prison. Yeah, and I don't think he went to prison for a very long time. The thing is, Rebecca Brooks is is also friends with David Cameron. I believe that David Cameron, this is the former Conservative Prime Minister, actually went to her wedding. So she's very well connected. And with these people, it's you scratch my back, I scratch yours. So I won't tell about your dirty Prime Minister secrets if you help me get away with all types of things. And Cameron was the Prime Minister during the hacking trial. And Rebecca was one of the main characters in that trial. I have no doubt whatsoever that there were some dealings that went on in Westminster that helped her get off. And not only did she get away with it, she got a £10 million payoff. So not even a slap on the wrist. Yes, that's what Harry called her, Tanya. Rehabber Brooks, aka Rebecca Brooks. That's what he refers to her as. Yeah, Rebecca Brooks and her husband destroyed most incredible documents before the court case. That's the reason she got off easy. Yes, and I believe we're going to get into this tomorrow, but I believe she also consulted former Labour Prime Minister Tony Blair when she was being investigated. So she had all the higher powers helping her and Murdoch. To be honest, I think the whole Leveson inquiry was one big farce. It was just one big circus. There was never going to be anything that came out of that. I actually just posted a video. If you go to come off the live tab and go to the videos tab of Jeremy Paxson, where he talks about when he went to I think it was a lunch or a dinner or something, and Piers Morgan was bragging about how phones are hacked. Light side, you said, I hope they band together and go after the tabloid papers. That's the only support I'd ask for Harry to get, because his blood fam is a no-go. Nope, absolutely not. Wormdroid, you said the royal family have some coins in garbage bags to spend. Maybe that some birthday cake was a thank you for payments. Yeah. Camilla and Charles got a birthday cake from the Sun. And I believe in that same picture at that party, what's his face? Arthur Edwards, the Sun photographer, was there. Sharon, I wonder if it was them that hacked Paris Hilton's phone back in the 90s. Maybe. Yeah. Okay, so I'm getting further down your comments and I'm finally getting to the crimes photo. The crimes in the photos. Black nail polish, actually all of them. Yeah, black nail polish, an off-the-shoulder dress, dark red lipstick, eating avocados, opening a car door and not wearing tights. Madness. All right, who's gonna get the last word of the day? Yeah, Commonwealth, an off-the-shoulder brazen hussy. Oh my god. Oh, sometimes you just have to laugh because it's just so ridiculous. I wonder what ridiculous phrase we're gonna get from the Jubilee. Oh, sorry, not from the Jubilee, from the coronation. The Jubilee gave us brazen hussy. Oh, gosh. YM, may the rest of your day be as high as the sun, standards are low. And with that, I'm going to end it. Thank you so much, YM Droid. And happy spring to everyone. It is so nice and sunny here in Lisbon. Finally, I'm finally wearing dresses, and I hope it's getting a little bit warmer where you live. All right, so back here again tomorrow. If there's no major stories, I think I'm going to do a podcast about Rebecca Brooks because there's quite a lot of interesting things about her as well. And like I said, as we move further to the court case, I'll be doing more podcasts like this because I think they're quite informative, and hopefully people who maybe aren't part of the squad will come across this information and they will begin to understand the British tabloid press a lot more, because it's not just about Harry and Meghan. It's about all the things. Well, it's bigger than them. And Harry said this himself. Right. See you tomorrow, folks. Have a good evening. Ciao.
Ah, yeah. Hey, Amaru. Only if you're ready. Let's go. I'm only looking for loyalty. All I need from you. I'm thinking you be the one for me. I can see it on you. Your love that do me every time. With you by my side, we gon' shine. Baby girl, you know you royalty. I've been waiting for you. Me no care about all the noise, but I'm digging your station. See how you got my head spinning with a body rotation. Couple days went by, now I'm losing my patience. Go ahead, drop a pin, girl, wanna know your location. What's your location? Had to pull a plug on your ex, now you coming my way out. I can switch it up for you, girl, I'm no longer a player. See that pretty face on my screen, that'll make my day out. Bea. I'm only looking for loyalty. All I need from you. I'm thinking you be the one for me. I can see it on you. Your love that do me every time. With you by my side, we gon' shine. Baby girl, you know you royalty. I've been waiting for you. Yeah. Do you know she royalty? Do you know she royalty? I be that one that'll get her heart racing. I did feel like with her we can take over nations, yeah. We can take a trip whenever, girl, you need a vacation. Number one bad girl, killing everything like on a mission. Girl on a mission. Had to pull a plug on your ex, now you coming my way out. I can switch it up for you, girl, I'm no longer a player. See that pretty face on my screen, that'll make my day out. Bea. I'm only looking for loyalty. All I need from you. I'm thinking you be the one for me. I can see it on you. Your love that do me every time. With you by my side, we gon' shine. Baby girl, you know you royalty. I've been waiting